Hey teachers, are you using a video conferencing software to teach your students? If you are, I'm guessing you've probably run into problems with things like classroom management and engaging your students in a virtual setting. Well, for the past couple months, I have been searching for a better tool that we can use to teach students remotely. A tool that incorporates many of the components that teachers need to be successful in an online environment. And I am excited to tell you that I have finally found the perfect solution. I can't wait to share it with you guys today. Now, the reason so many teachers are running into problems when they're using video conferencing platforms such as Zoom and Google Meet and Teams to teach students is because none of those platforms were built for education. They were built for things like online meetings and webinars. So they just don't have the tools that teachers need. They're great for serving a purpose when we've had to move to this online learning very suddenly, but they really weren't built for online education long term. Now, recently I discovered a program and it's called ClassIn. And ClassIn is very similar to programs like Zoom and Google Meet, but the key difference between ClassIn and all those other programs is that it was specifically created for online education. So that means that many of those missing components that you've been looking for that have to do with classroom management and student engagement and reporting, all of those things are built in to this platform. Now, as I've been preparing for this video, I've really been debating about what to include because it would honestly take me a long time to go through all of the many features that are part of ClassIn that can simplify online teaching. So what I've decided to do in this video is talk about the 3 reasons you should be using ClassIn for virtual teaching. And as we go through this list, we're going to go back and forth between my computer so I can show you specifically how to use some of those features to save you time, to better engage students, and to track their progress along the way. So let's get started with the 3 reasons why you should be using ClassIn for virtual learning. Number 1, ClassIn has built-in classroom management features. Probably the biggest complaint that I've heard from teachers about traditional video conferencing software to teach is that it's really hard to keep behaviors under control and to keep students focused through this online platform. But ClassIn has many built-in tools that help you manage behaviors. For example, you can reward students for positive behaviors, and you can also keep track of the rewards that they're given throughout the day so that you can see which students are really excelling and doing what they're supposed to be doing, and maybe which students you need to work with a little bit more. Whenever you want to recognize students for doing something positive through ClassIn, you can send them a reward. And when you send students a reward, a little trophy is going to appear on their screen that's going to catch their attention, it's going to get them excited, and remind them to stay on track. And there's also a place on the student screen where they can keep track of the number of trophies they've accumulated throughout the day. You can also check in throughout the session or at the end of your session to see how many trophies each student has accumulated. So let's go ahead and jump on my computer and I'm going to show you how you can use this reward system as part of your online classroom management system. All right, so right now we are inside of the ClassIn classroom, and my husband Ben is going to act as my student today because I want you to be able to see what things look like from teacher view and from student view. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of these awesome classroom management features that are part of this virtual classroom. So let's say that Ben is doing something awesome, he's on task, he's focused, he's participating, and I want to reward him for doing a good job. All I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over his video, and you will see there's this trophy icon here. Watch what happens when I click it. Ben just received a reward, and you'll notice that he also saw on his screen that he received that reward as well. Ben and myself, we can also keep track of how many rewards he has received throughout the session. You'll notice on his video There's the trophy icon with 1 next to it because so far he's received 1 trophy. You can also use the class roster, which if you come to your toolbar over here and click on the bottom icon, which looks like 3 little people, this is your roster icon. So you can pull this up and you can see everyone who is in the class right now. And if you look under reward, you can see the number of rewards that each student has received so far. You'll also be able to get a copy of this at the end of the session so that you can go back and look at it later. Now, before we move on, there's one other thing that I want to point out to you. You'll notice that there's only so much space up here, and this is where all of your students' images are going to appear. But we want to make sure that we're watching our students all the time. That's part of good classroom management. So what I recommend that you do is if you have a lot of students in your classroom, you're going to check mark this box right here in the roster, and you're going to say shift everyone in sequence, and you're going to decide how many seconds. So right now it's set to 30 seconds. You can change this as low as or as high as you want it to go. And so since I have this set for 30 seconds, every 30 seconds, the images that I see here are going to switch out. Now, if I have a big class, I'd probably change it to even like 10 or 15 seconds because 30 seconds can be a long time. But that's something else that you can use to help with your classroom management. The second reason why you should be using ClassIn for teaching virtually is because ClassIn makes it easy for students to ask questions and engage with you without interrupting the rest of the class. Something that I have been noticing quite often as we've made this shift to virtual learning is a lot of video conferencing systems, they don't provide a way that makes it easy for the students to interact with the teacher and let the teacher know when they have a question. Some of the things that I have been seeing is that students are just calling out, which interrupts the teacher and it distracts the rest of the class, or students are sitting with their hands raised for so long hoping that the teacher will see them on the grid that they end up forgetting what their question even was by the time the teacher calls on them, and they're just really getting distracted and they're not as focused on the lesson. So with ClassIn, there is a built-in tool that allows students to notify you that they have a question, and then they don't have to raise their hand, they don't have to call out to you, and you can see which student has a question and when they have a question. So let's go ahead and jump back on my computer and I'm going to show you how to use this feature right now. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you inside of the ClassIn classroom is how Ben can get my attention if he has a question. So if I'm teaching and Ben has a question, he is going to click and hold down the hand icon in the lower right-hand corner of his screen. You can see that he's done that, and I instantly know that he has a question because my icon starts flashing down here. I also see the hand raised on his video, and you'll notice that if I come down here, so if I see this, it's yellow, it's flashing. When I see this, if I hover over it, you will see this message pops up and it tells me that Ben is the student who has his hand raised. So that's another way that you can know who has a question for you. And then you can decide, you can either say, okay, Ben, go ahead and ask your question right now. Or if you're in the middle of teaching and you're afraid you're gonna lose your train of thought, you can say, okay, Ben, I'm gonna write your name down, and when I get to a good stopping point, I'm gonna come back to you so that you can ask your question. So if you need to, write your question down on a piece of paper so you don't forget. So there's some options for students asking questions in your virtual classroom. And my third and final reason why you should be using ClassIn to teach virtually is because ClassIn has all of these built-in engagement tools such as multiple choice questions, drawing tools, dice, timers, all kinds of things that you can use to engage students right within the platform. A lot of video conferencing systems, aside from the chat box, there's not a whole lot of ways that you can interact and engage with your students, but on ClassIn, there's countless ways. And so let's jump on my computer and I'm gonna show you a few of my favorite features right now. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you inside of the ClassIn classroom is how to use all of the interactive tools and features. And so if you come back over here to your toolbar and go almost all the way to the bottom, you're gonna see this little toolbox. It says teaching tools. A lot of times I refer to it as interactive tools because this is what's gonna truly help you to interact with your students and teach in a really creative way. So I'm not going to click on every single icon that's here, but what I want to do is show you some of my favorites and then let you know what some of the most helpful tools are and the tools that I think will benefit you the most when you're teaching virtually. So the first one is the load image. So if you have an image saved on your computer and you want to share it as part of your lesson, you can click on that and upload the image directly from your computer. This black space here, it's basically like a blackboard. So you can put images, you can write on this using the tools, but basically you can upload an image to your blackboard. The next one I want to show you is the one at the end of the top row, and this is desktop sharing. So let's say you have something on your desktop or your screen that you want to share with students. You're gonna click on this icon here and it will allow you to share your screen with them. Now the first icon in the next row is one that I really love. This is your timer. So I'm gonna click on this and Ben should be able to see it on his end as well. Well, once I hit start, he'll be able to see it on his end as well. And I can change the minutes and the seconds on this and click start, and now Ben should be able to see it on his side as well. And basically, if you have an activity but you want students to be timed or let them know that they only have so much time to do it, this is a great option. You can see when time is up, it goes off to let students know that it is done. Another thing that I find this tool to be really helpful for is virtual scavenger hunts. I have another video on this channel all about my favorite virtual scavenger hunts that's pretty popular. And a lot of times what I recommend doing when you're having a virtual scavenger hunt is setting a timer. So that way students know if they have to get up from their computer to get something, that's how much time they have to get back here. So I think the timer is something that you can use quite often. Okay, the next tool I want to show you is the dice tool. And this you can see, I can click it and it starts rolling, and then when Ben clicks it or one of the students click it, it will stop rolling. Now I have another video on this channel all about virtual brain breaks, and I include a lot of dice activities in that where you roll a dice and whatever number is rolled, students have to perform a certain activity for the number rolled on the dice. So maybe in this case they would do 6 jumping jacks, but the dice is great for those brain break activities. It's great for math games. You can also do like a get to know you thing. So I could say, Ben, tell me 6 interesting things about you. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do with the dice. All right, next up is the small blackboard feature. And this is something that your students can interact on. You can pick the drawing board or you can pick the text board. I'm gonna show you the drawing one for this example. So you'll see that it pulled up a small drawing board and I can write or type on this. So let's just do something simple. I'm gonna write 2 + 2 =, and then when I click handout, it's going to assign it to the students. Now, if I had something where I want it to give them like a certain amount of time, I could also pull up the timer right now and say, okay, you have this many seconds or minutes to respond to this on the drawing board. And then when students are finished, when time is up, I'm gonna click collect. Ben, if you're done, can you give me a thumbs up? Okay, so now I can click collect and it says the blackboard is taken back. Now, if I wanna see student responses, I'm gonna come up here to the top and I'm gonna find the student whose response I want to see. So if I click on Ben, I can see that he says 4? And if I had more students, I could scroll through their answers as well. Now you'll notice when I click away from this, it's asking me if I want to save the writing. So if you want to use this as like an exit ticket and then come back to it later, you can do that. So you can check students' responses at the end of class so you can see what you need to reteach at another time. Okay, the next one is the responder tool. So let me pull this one up. And I'm gonna click start, and then on Ben's end, he's gonna see kind of a dot popping all over his screen, and he's gonna click on it when he sees it. And this is just a fun way to get students' attention. So maybe I'll say, okay, I have this question. The first person to click on the responder is the person that gets to answer it. You can use it for games. So if you're playing a game and rewarding student points, the first person to click on the responder gets to answer first and gets those points. It's just a great way to get students' attention. If you feel like they're off focus, pull up the responder. Whoever clicks on it first gets a trophy. So lots of cool things that you can do with this. Okay, next up we have the selector, which this is basically like multiple choice. So let's say that you ask your students a multiple choice question. You can also take away and add responses. And then whatever the correct response is, make sure you click on it before you click on begin answering. So when I click on begin answering, it's going to send that to the student so Ben can click on what he thinks is the correct answer, and I can see that what he answered and how accurate the class is. I can also click on details and I can see the answer for each individual student and how long it took them to answer each question. So this is a great assessment tool to use periodically throughout a lesson to see how your students are doing and if they're understanding what you're teaching. Okay, the next one I want to show you is multi-directional screen sharing, and I'm not going to pull this one up, but basically what this is it will allow your students to share their screen with you. And this can be very helpful because let's say they're working on a writing project or a math project and they're just really stuck. You could actually click on this and it will allow you to see what they're working on so that way you can help them. The only thing I do want to warn you is that when they share your screen with you, they're not just sharing with you, they're sharing with the entire class. So it's very important that you ask for permission before you move forward with this. The assignment tool, this will allow you to assign assignments directly here in ClassIn, so you don't have to go to a third party to do that. This icon here, this is the Apple Mirror. So if you have an Apple device such as an iPad or your smartphone, you can share your screen from that with them. Okay, so the very last one that I want to show you, this is your group discussion. And basically this is the equivalent of creating like breakout rooms and other video conferencing platforms. You can decide how many groups you want to have. You can decide the method for grouping and then go ahead and start grouping. Obviously I can't create a group right now because there's only one student in here. But the one thing that I want to point out for you that is really nice about this breakout room feature compared to other video conferencing platforms is that this feature will actually allow you to monitor all of your groups, and most you cannot, unless you're actually a part of the group. So this will still allow you to monitor all of your groups, and it's also really great because you can push out items to each of the groups at the same time, such as images or screen shares and different things like that. So I think this is something that will really encourage collaboration among students, even though they're learning virtually. So there you have it. Those are my top 3 reasons for why you should be using ClassIn for teaching virtually. Now, since I started using this program, I can honestly say that I haven't really found anything that I dislike about it. A lot of times in these videos, at the end, I'll talk about a few of the cons, but to be honest, I really haven't come up with any cons for this platform because it really checks so many of the boxes that a lot of other programs just aren't checking, and it allows teachers to interact with their students in a really meaningful way, even though they're not in the same room with their students. And I've really only scratched the surface of what ClassIn can do in this video. Some of the other things that I really like about ClassIn is it has gamification features, so you can have students play games right within the platform to help them review. I also really like that you can create assignments and assign them to students directly within the platform. You don't have to use a third party to do it. A lot of times what I'm seeing teachers doing is they're teaching in one platform and then creating and assigning assignments in another platform. You can do all of that right here in ClassIn. And the other thing that I'm really loving about ClassIn, and I'm really just starting to explore this feature, is the breakout rooms. I know with some of the other video conferencing platforms, breakout rooms are a little tricky because You can't actually monitor your students while they're in the breakout room unless you're in the breakout room with them. So if you have multiple breakout rooms assigned, there's no way to monitor all of those. And I always kind of think of that as like sending your students into the classroom by themselves with no supervision, which we know can be dangerous. But in ClassIn, you can create breakout rooms, and you can actually monitor all of the breakout rooms at the same time. You can send things to the different breakout rooms at the same time. There's some really amazing things that you can do with breakout rooms inside of ClassIn. So those are some of the other things that I really like about this platform that I didn't even get to today. I could spend a whole lot more time talking about the many features of ClassIn that I'm just really digging right now. But for right now, I'm going to recommend that you go to the link in my description and check out ClassIn for yourself, because I really think that if you are teaching remotely right now, this is a platform that can solve many of the problems that you may be encountering. And after you have a chance to check ClassIn out, make sure to leave a comment below and let me know what you think about it. What features are you finding to be most helpful? How are you using it to teach your students? I always find that when we're sharing in the comments different ways and activities that we're using within a platform, it encourages and inspires all of us. So make sure you do that. And then last but not least, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. When you do that, it definitely helps this channel grow, and it helps us to reach even more teachers with helpful tips and strategies. It also lets you know when my latest videos are released so that you never miss out on any of these teaching tips and resources. So until next time, happy teaching!